even more. How's it going? We'll enjoy some ambiance and chat for a bit while I finish my potatoes. Started job training? Oh man. I mean, grats, but yeah, exhausting. So, okay, so initially on my 100% speed run file, like, okay, so on my first playthrough, I did Coral Tower, and it notoriously took me a really long time. Like, I think I spent about 6 hours trying to beat it. And then on my 100% speed run, air quote speed run, like under 30 hours, file, I tried to do it again. I was like, okay, I'll do the Coral Tower. Why not? If I do the Coral Tower, then I won't have to do, like, maybe I can, like, not do Carmelita. So that was the initial, so I came back and I tried it a bit. It was just not going well. And I didn't even try it at all on my Steel Soul, even though it's very safe to try on Steel Soul. So last night, I had this impulse where it's like, okay, I've beaten Lost Lace a bunch of different ways now. You know, certainly not absurd challenge ways, but like in a realistic live fire type environment, I've now beaten Lost Lace in a bunch of different ways. I understand the fight very well, and I feel like now, in any given situation, like I can go bench at Lost Lace, and I can beat her in 2 attempts, 2 to 3. And in many cases, for like 1, right? Oh, right. I've got some videos to just like show. We can just play some videos. All right. Well, this goes. Let me go to cam real quick. And we're gonna pull these up in okay. Yeah, this is one. Okay, so recruiting Chakra to the forum fight is a lot more involved than Garmond. And there is a good reason for it. She is a hydrogen bomb. So I went to record this footage and I completely forgot to even use Threadstorm on this first wave. Until now, I was like, oh wait, I have Threadstorm. I should be using it. Yeah. So, second wave, this is when Chakra comes out. Same as Garmond. Like, they come, you have to do the first wave on your own. And it's like, okay, she's helping more than Garmond. You know, she's, oh, that went pretty fast. All right. Then we get to this, and it's like, oh, that other one, oh, they're both already dead. Okay, well, oh, it's he's just, all right. No, oh, they're gone. They're just gone. See, there's a bunch of these mobs that, you know, I'm trying to get to them, and they just die before I even get over there. So I've taken a couple hits, like I've taken a few hits, I've had to heal a few times, but I have never once so far been like at risk. I haven't felt compelled to toss out all my cog flies. I've really only tossed out one by accident, really. And look, we're already on the last phase. Okay. So I throw down Tax. And then it's like, alright, let's get to the safe spot. She's a monster. Like, if you're having trouble with this fight, recruit Chakra. She's so powerful. Is it good or bad? I don't know. I don't really... Okay. And then... Okay, which one's this gonna be? I think they're gonna be in order. No, wait, they're gonna be in time order, so they're not gonna be... This should be Beast? Yeah. So Beast Crest took me a while to get used to. I haven't used it all that much in general play, so, you know, maybe Lost Lace was not, like, the best environment in the world to learn how to use it and its, you know, offensive heal. But the thing that really changed it for me, actually, the thing that really made Beastcrest viable for me, or like that papered over a lot of the problems that I was having, was Longclaw. So, because the big issue that I was running into was I would rage in order to heal. Like I would bind, and then I would just kind of get I would get hit. I would lose the buff and, you know, not get any healing or get barely any. So adding Longclaw. So Longclaw plus... So you do get a range boost built in to when you... built into when you're using the bind. But Longclaw on top of that just gave me, like... It just makes it so huge that you can space a little bit more safely. Okay, so to get Chakra, to get her to assist in the first place that you can have Chakra assist you is Hunter's March, and the way to get her there is pretty straightforward. You just need to go into that fight before. Yeah, so then we go with Flea Brew just to really like lay a lot of damage on her. So we're now, you know, already phase 4. We are still using Cogflies because Cogfly's good. Get that last Cogfly out. Pop some Flea Brew. Take a lot of unnecessary damage, like just a tremendous amount. Waste that entire bind not being able to get a heal, not being able to get even a single hit in. But yeah, dodge that. Playing it pretty safe. I mean, obviously, like being very, very evasive here because I'm really close to being able to get another bind. Missed that window because I was too far away. But there's a good shot. Alright. Over the blades. And then it turned out that was the last hit that was actually needed. Then to get her for High Halls... to get her for the forum, the forum's also like it's not complicated. It's just long. So you need to have visited every zone that she can spawn in. You don't necessarily need to have talked to her in all of those zones, but you need to have like been to them so that she will offer the map. Then you need to have bought all of the maps. Then she will oh, what's the trigger? There's then a trigger. Okay, yeah, so this is Witchcrest. This also took me a while to adjust to. We're using Witchcrest with twin mirrors. Yeah, so you buy all of her maps, you do her quest to go find her master's resting spot in what's that place called? Bilewater, and then after that she will be available to recruit at the forum. The thing that I haven't tested yet is what happens if you fulfill both requirements. Like, is it possible for both Chakra and Garmon to be standing there, and then you choose which one to talk to? This ends up being kind of a pretty weird bit of play in this one. Like, this is not a really good showcase of Witchcrest. My controller disconnected for a split second there, which is why that came up. Don't worry, this is not a composite. This is not a composite run. So this is not like a really this is not like a pro gamer demonstration of Witchcrest, but it is actually a good demonstration of what makes Witchcrest like. This is a good argument in favor of Witchcrest, specifically the fact that I'm like not very good at it, and you can still see like how much it pops off. Of these attempts that I recorded, which was actually like my fastest kill. Yeah, so a lot of my positioning there was really just trying to make good use of the tax. One of the things that I learned in all of this, which I think I had intuited, so you can see it right here. So that actually destroyed all of my tax that I had just laid down. So you want to try and be like, you don't want to just like spam them out. You want to create a little pile of tacks and then bait her into them. That would have been a perfect opportunity to bind, and I didn't. But yeah, so it wound up being the fastest kill out of any of these attempts, because the that heal plus the claw mirror, or the twin mirror, is just so much damage. And then this should be Architect, and I think that'll. So Architect, I wound up actually focusing more on. I wound up focusing a lot more on needle damage, particularly needle damage with flint slate and poison. Aside from the pogo, which I find almost useless against Lace, Architect Crest is actually like pretty easy to adjust to. I don't know why I was having trouble adjusting to it in the past, but So yeah, we're not exactly pumping out the damage. I'm clearly not great at pumping out the damage with Architect, but okay, we can skip the intermission. I mean, let's just go. Yeah, so, I mean, this winds up being kind of exactly what you'd expect. It's cogflies and tax and poison. In fact, I'm pretty sure... Yeah, she dies to a poison tick, not even like a cogfly hit. So she gets poisoned. Yeah, so that cogfly hits her, and then the poison tick is what actually like kills her as I'm just about to die. Yeah. Then this snail crest, this wound up being, this was kind of boring. I didn't particularly like. I get the appeal of snail, like of shaman crest now, but like this was my slowest kill by far, and I don't like how sort of like weak, just like the game feel of the needle strikes. So in part, actually, so okay, so a big component of how slow this wound up being, I will say that Shaman, I do get now that like it is an extremely safe. You can play like you can stall with it actually really well. So like if once you've got all the silk hearts and if you put it in Weave Light and you know, you can be like very, very evasive and just like chip things down using you know, using spells. It's got its place. I get it. I get why it's got defenders. This should be Wanderer. This is actually a lot of fun. I step into that. That's dumb. But like, yeah, we can I don't know why I canceled out of that. Well, I mean, I think I canceled out of it and tried to pogo, but screwed it up. So the thing that I learned by doing this is that my original strategy for Lace wasn't even actually like that bad. Like the way that I was initially trying to fight her, I was just doing a really bad job at it. I mean, the big thing that I was doing like wrong was over jumping, like just jumping way too much, jumping in the wrong directions, and dashing, like panic dashing, and you know, just slamming face first into her and taking contact damage. Because it's kind of like shocking here that it's like, okay, I'm actually doing like really sloppy in the scheme of things. Like I've taken so many hits. I've had to heal like 3 times already. But then also Wanderer is really good at generating silk, so... I don't remember if I'm using Long Claw or not. I think I am. I think because this one... So, the stranger crests I needed, it took me like between 7 and 11 attempts each in order to kind of like figure it out, and I needed to try a bunch of different things and get used to it and tweak my loadout. Wanderer, I just needed to like not screw it up. So I didn't even know, like I didn't really adjust my my tools all that much during these attempts. But now, granted, I do have like 10 hours worth of practice with Wanderer on this fight, technically speaking. Good crit there. I mean, that's luck, but yeah. And then Hunter and Reaper aren't terribly... They're basically just more of that. Okay, so I had some thoughts on... I had some thoughts on Coral Tower that I wanted to test out, and it turns out that my thoughts and assumptions were correct. So I think I figured out a way, a couple ways of making Coral Tower actually really bearable. So, okay, so two tools that have just like a ton of utility on so a couple tools that have a ton of utility in this gauntlet are Druid's Eyes and Volt Filament. So the thought process here, which is pretty straightforward, is just that Druid's Eyes give you a lot of add a lot of sustain if you're taking chip damage, like kind of regular 1-point chip damage, and you're not just getting like bullied. And that's kind of the problem with Coral Tower, right? The big issue with Coral Tower is attrition, that your Silk generation is being just like outpaced by the chip damage, and you get worn down. That and just like physical exhaustion. And Druid's Eyes take a huge edge off of that. And then the other one is Volt Filament, which enables Silk Spear to one-shot a lot of the more annoying things in the arena. On that basis, is Lifeblood Injector ever worth bringing along? Lifeblood Injector is probably actually... Yes, actually, I would say it's really worth bringing along. Particularly, like, and that would be the other build to go for, would be Architect Crest with Lifeblood Injector, Druid's Eyes, and just make sure that you like have enough shell shards in stock that you can like reserve bind constantly or a lot. That was stupid. God, I hate this wave. No! Wrong direction. Alright, we're doing poorly. But even doing poorly, things are not going, like, that bad. Right, like, I got a bind off in here. Not quite a second bind, but first couple waves here are... Or wait, or does this one start with, like, awful first wave? Oh, come on. Right, missing that silk spear was possibly fatal. Yeah. So I tried it with a bunch of things. So Silk Spear is really reliable, but obviously has a bit of, like, you know, you can whiff it. Like, it's kind of easy to whiff. Threadstorm is a ton of damage, and it's really useful on some waves, but also not very useful on the worst waves. Pale Nails is really good, with sort of the downside being that you can't really, like, you know, you can line up all of the conch shells in a way that you just take out like all three at the same time. Pale Nails can't do that, but it's also harder to whiff. Cross Stitch, obviously high skill ceiling, very good, especially because, like, you know, it is also like AoE. Sharp Dart, I found, has its, like, it's got its downsides, but it is very similar to Silk Spear and harder to miss because it's wider. With the downside being that it can, you know, put you in a bad situation. So it's a little bit riskier to use, but it's also a little bit safer in that you're less likely to miss. Let's try Cross Stitch. And let's try Plasmium. I don't know why I did that. The worst wave. Honestly, that is the single worst wave in all of this. Like, it's just so easy to get tilted. Yeah, so cross stitch. The downside of cross stitch is that it's actually pretty hard to use against, like, the things that you most want to use it against. Not what I wanted to do. That was such a stupid loss of that bind. I don't think Lifeblood really shines without being able to not even overdose on Architect, but like just reserve bind in general. Okay, that does CQ. That's part of why that's so awful. That was a terrible situation to end up in, but we made the best of it. Only 14 waves to go. We're a little more than halfway through this gauntlet. It's insane. 30 waves is like... Ah, only got her. That was stupid. Why did I even try to do that? No, wrong direction. Well, that's the end of it. Okay, now I want to see something. Okay, so in testing last night, I made it through. I dropped the shortcut, and then I couldn't redo the gauntlet. So the shortcut doesn't just like let you bypass. Well, okay, this is the thing that I'm unsure of. Is there's one of two things happens here. One is that dropping this disables the gauntlets, or two, just beating them disables them. Like now they no longer respawn, and this just saves you time. And I couldn't find a clear answer on that, so that's what we're going to test right now by just dying in this boss fight. right, what's gonna happen? Okay, so yeah, all right, so it is dropping the shortcut is the trigger for disabling. So yeah, so if you... That's twice. That's twice. That's somehow twice. No. Oh, God. Why do I keep pointing that the wrong way? Does focus work on spells? I don't think so. Alright, let's actually kill Crust King. So that deactivates the whole thing. I've only fought this guy once. This is my second time even seeing him. He's actually one of the tankiest bosses in the game in terms of raw hit points. Yeah, no, I think that is easily like the biggest problem with Coral Tower is I think the gauntlets could have served to be shorter and just like less insane and make Khan a little bit actually harder. Because I think, like, okay, I'm getting pretty good at Act 3, right? Like, I think Carmelita is the only thing that, like, really, truly, properly, like, still gives me trouble at this point. You know, as you saw, like, I just beat the Coral Tower twice in a row, or, like, the hard part of the Coral Tower twice in a row. And then first tried Khan on my second time ever seeing him, despite the fact that like the final phase was going completely garbo. Like I was just running into everything and face tanking it.
Magina Fora.
I don't care how evil it is. I want shinies. There you go, Crust King. Enjoy spending the rest of eternity sitting on my wall. Khan, I think Khan is the biggest sort of okay, so Coral Tower was originally an entire zone that is now where Blasted Steps are, and it has been significantly like shrunk down into the memory. And it feels pretty obvious that Khan used to be an early game boss, right? Around sort of where you would be fighting like Last Judge. So maybe like kind of like late early game, like late Act 1. I feel like he was originally like, he really feels like a late Act 1 boss, because like mechanically, like obviously if you just stuck him in Act 1, he would demolish players because he's got, you know, a billion hit points. But if you gave him, you know, what are our actual values here? So, Crust King, he's got 1650. Last Judge has 720. So, like, if you gave, yeah, so if you gave Crust King Khan 720, if you halved his hit points, yeah, you can easily be fighting with only dash and drift cloak. Like, there's nothing about the fight that's like, I mean, actually, like, really, like, dash, drift cloak, cling grip. Like, cling grip, I feel is probably, I mean, probably the more relevant one there. But, like, yeah, there's no reason why you couldn't be fighting him like fairly early in the game, and he would be like, oh, like he is the test of your ability to pogo, because he's got the big long like bottom of the screen one, where it's like, okay, you either need to like cling to a wall and do it, or you need to like bounce off his head, right? It's not that crazy. And so, like, yeah, he feels like an earlier boss. Only his last phase is really like, oh, okay, like now things are getting real. So yeah, I don't know. I really like Coral Tower is to me like the biggest misstep of the game. In that if it had been a zone like Verdania, I mean, like, okay, the thing is, I don't even necessarily hate the concept of like, okay, you need to fight your way through all his mans, and you need to do it in basically like an unbroken run. But they didn't want to just make it a thing that it's like, that was basically like a parkour challenge of dodging enemies, right? Like, because they could have had it like, okay, like you just need to work your way up through this snaking thing into his throne room or whatever, but then that just becomes like an exercise in dodging rather than an exercise in fighting. So they closed the so it's like, okay, well, you know, you put them into actual like arenas, the doors shut, you fight the waves, and then you get to move on. And it's like, I can see it on paper. I don't think the narrative of Coral Tower is bad, but I think it is the biggest misstep of the game in terms of where it's placed, that you get into Act 3. And I've been saying this for weeks now. that like the biggest problem with Act 3 is that it's a recipe for burnout, that like the game is quite long, and if someone is playing it for the first time, you know, it's even if they're going through it like even if you're going through it pretty fast, like let's say you're pretty skilled and you're not really getting hung up on anything, and you're also not like you're not spending a lot of time crisscrossing the map, trying to like try things out, right? You've got the patience to just kind of like stay on critical path, do a little bit of side exploring, but you're by and large like staying on critical path until you hit problems. And then you're going and doing exploring, and you're like liberally sort of like looking things up, so you're not spending like an hour or two trying to figure something out only to realize that like you're doing it wrong. If you're going like even that, like a casual first playthrough, even like that is still like 40 hours, right? You know, my 100% runs, like like 100% runs are 20 hours easy, even if you know where, like 25 hours, even if you know where everything is. And you're going through bosses like, you know, 2 attempts max, right? So it is not a short game, and it's real easy for players like, you know, I would use myself as kind of I feel like I fall into a class in this regard, where clearing the game for the first time, or clearing to the first ending to Weaver Queen, takes about 80 hours, because you are doing a lot of exploration. You're doing the thing that the game rewards you for, or you're doing some of the stuff that the game rewards you for, which is that if you go back and if you explore backwards while you're progressing the game, a lot of like little things change. You know, NPCs move, they have new dialogue, and those dialogues change small interactions later on in the game. And sure, like once those are solved, it's a lot easier to like not waste time looking for them, because like, okay, collectively, like you specifically as a player, and then collectively as a community, like people can sort of guide you into like when it's worth going and like checking on stuff. But if you're going in, you know, without that guidance, then the only way to find out whether or not stuff has changed is to go back and check it. And that leads to like a lot, like if you're invested in that, you're actually spending like a lot of time backtracking. You're spending a lot of time, you know, invested in the world. And it's really, really easy to hit 60, 70, 80 hours on your first Weaver Queen. Right. So then from there, you get into Act 3, and you end up with you've got this amazing narrative tension and this amazing narrative like inertia in the trip down to the abyss. You get Silksong. You have the crazy intense and quite difficult ascension, escape from the abyss. And then you're set on this fetch quest to go get 3 more things immediately after you just finished collecting 3 more things. 7 minutes. Well, it's yeah, we got about 20. I'll finish this this monologue, and then I gotta go. So yeah, you end up, you hit the wall of this like go fetch 3 more things, and the map just got like so much bigger. And also also like at the exact same time, the world has changed in that like there's been this little mini cataclysm, and so there's an incentive for an invested player to kind of like go back and poke their head in every hole looking for things that have changed, and some of that's rewarding. Like there's absolutely a bunch of it where like you find new stuff and you find interesting things that have changed, or you get just like sad little tableaus where it's like, oh, okay, rocks fell and killed everyone here, and then any stuff you didn't buy, like Grindel has come along and looted. You know, you are getting that reward, but you've got then this like really spread out fetch quest, and what you run into is this like really long, honestly like quite tough. I've sort of managed to get good enough at it that, and like find some things that take off the roughest edges. So okay, this is one of the things. Okay, the thing that really takes the edge off of Coral Tower is Volt Filament. Adding like getting that much sort of like point damage, just like straight up, like you can delete a flying bastard, you can like get rid of the conch shells, and like Volt Filament adds damage exactly where it's needed, and that takes a huge edge off of those those gauntlets. And sure, it's right next to Coral Tower, but it's also like really it's probably actually, I would say, the hardest tool to find if someone doesn't tell you where it is. I'm hard pressed to think of one that like what's Curvesicle upgrade, maybe. Honestly, like I would say the Silk Shot. Well, no, the Silk Shot's easy to miss, but it's also really easy to find. The main problem with it is that it's located in an area that people generally avoid. But like if you're willing to explore Bile Water, it's actually really easy to find. Let's see, what else? Most of the rest of these are just on like quests or vendors. I don't want to say that it's like, most of them are like pretty easy to stumble into. Or like are pretty easy to find with just sort of a little bit of exploration instinct. You know, they're in areas that are kind of marked on the map, or they're like breakable walls that are right next to benches, or are like very much in your way. So like, I don't know, memory crystal, I guess I can conceptualize a reason why someone would miss more or less any given one of these. So like Weave Light, okay, if you don't check the corners in Weave Nest Atla, you're not gonna, you know, you're gonna look at the bench and you're gonna be like, oh, it's just a really pretty bench. And if you never consider like, why is this bench here? You know, if you never think kind of metatextually about like, okay, why is this bench here? Like there's no real threats nearby that would require like a bench. So I would say that Volt Filament, like Volt Verm, is probably like the easiest to miss. Not that others of these can't be missed. Wreath of Purity is pretty easy to miss. Quick Sling, Memory Crystal, sure, Weave Light. Plenty of these are like easy to miss. Volt Filament is the easiest to miss. There's my argument. Volt Filament is the easiest to miss. So it's not like you're really, you can make the assumption like, oh, of course somebody's going to have it. Any which way, Coral Tower is really hard. It's long. It's draining. And if you're already 80 hours deep into the game, you're kind of hitting the like, all right, I would like to see the ending now stage of things, especially as your exploration around like, okay, you've got this incentive, you've got this narrative incentive to run around the world and see all of the things and see how, see what has changed. And that narrative incentive is not necessarily actually really being repaid. There's a lot of little tableaus, but there's not actually a ton of like change. And you see this just in the any percent or the not the in the 100% run, which is that there's only about 6% in Act 3. So very little of the stuff that you can collect is in Act 3. It's basically it's one mask. It's one mask. It's a one needle upgrade. What is 3? Yeah, there's the mirror upgrade. That doesn't count for percent. And also, that's also not hard to find because Trobio comes to you, right? Like, he posts pain, anguish, and misery on the wish wall. So, like, he tells you to come back to him. So you've got a couple item upgrades. You can get the you can get the curvesicle. You can get the unlimited plasmium, Shaman Crest, right? So, yeah, Shaman Crest is Act 3, right? Okay, so Silksong, pale the Silksong, Pale Nails, Mask, Needle, Flower. There's one more percent. What is it? Now, you can get Silksong in Act 2. Oh, I was looking right at it. Pin badge. So there's your 6% that's Act 3 exclusive. Now, for most people, it's actually going to be about like 8% because they're not going to get like they're probably not going to get Silksong until Act 3. No, all non-hunter, they add up to exactly 32. Because it's 7, 5, 6, 7. But it means you need like everything. Like you need all slots. And sort of the challenge there is that there's a bunch of memory lockets that are in odd places, or like there's a bunch of memory lockets that are like easy to miss in Act 2. But no, yeah, you can get it in Act 2. You just need to be able to fill out all 5 of these crests with memory lockets. So most people, the thing is it's really easy to miss, like, because there's a couple memory lockets that are easy to miss. It's really, really easy to have all but like 1 or 2 things unlocked on these crests. And so once you get Shaman and its default 3 sockets, a lot of players get tipped over by that, you know, that Shaman is the thing that puts them over 32. Yeah. But so, okay. So you've got all of this exploring that you can do. Most of it is actually kind of unrewarding in Act 3. Not because, because mostly what you're finding is tableaus, but the other thing that you're finding, finding tableaus would be fine. Finding just little bits of dialogue would be fine, but also there are void masses all over the world, and they're causing a ton of problems. Like, they're super obnoxious to fight, and all of a sudden, like, enemies that you should be breezing through are like a coin toss on whether or not they're going to have like triple the hit points and be doing way more damage than they used to be doing, and are going to be like draining your silk, making it a game of attrition that's like worse. So exploration is like in Act 3 feels punishing. It doesn't feel really like good. You're, going back to just like, hey, I'm just gonna go check on this NPC just to see if they have new dialogue, but then having to actually like fight your way there, have a challenging fight to get back to someone just to see if they've got like 2 new lines of dialogue doesn't feel like a great use of your time. So that's kind of unfun. There's not a lot to find in Act 3 if you kind of scoured Act 2. The stuff that is left to find, like if you didn't scour Act 2, suddenly you're just regretting that you didn't spend more time in Act 2 because Act 3 just got so much harder. And then you've got you've got this fetch quest that in particular, no, this is not, you've got this fetch quest that's sending you around to a bunch of places that are actually like kind of difficult to locate, right? You've got this one Nylet, like the easiest one is Coral Tower, and then this one feels like it's supposed to be accessed from Blasted Steps, and this one way over here, like it's in far fields, but it kind of takes a bit of poking around before you realize like, oh, I probably need to actually start in Hunter's March and go to the statue. And like, you're kind of thinking, okay, well, things that are marked on the map, things that are drawn on the map are probably important. And that statue that I've never interacted with is drawn on the map. And it is sort of in proximity to where I'm going. And I think they said like Ant Queen. Okay, yeah, no, you can logic your way through it, but so you spend a bunch of time fruitlessly searching for things, and mobs are suddenly randomly harder, like inconsistently harder, and they're endurance challenges, right? Coral Tower is 30 waves before you get any reprieve, and then you've got these other 2 bosses that are both very, very block heavy, and Carmelita, like I was talking earlier about this in terms of effective hit points, like, so Crust King Khan has one of the highest he's like number 2 or number 3 in terms of like highest hit points in the game. But if we think in terms of effective hit points, EHP, then the fact that Carmelita basically blocks 50% of attacks she annihilates him in terms of tankiness. So no, I think there's a lot of, like, I've gotten good at Act 3. I think even Carmelita, right? She doesn't take me that many attempts to like re-kill. Like, she's not. It's not like she takes me another 6 hours every time I need to face her. I think the last time I did her, like, I don't know, earlier this week, late last week, whenever it was, we spent what, like maybe an hour on it, if that, 45 minutes, for the steel soul. Yeah, right. Yeah, no, it was last Saturday, because I completed that run last Saturday. So, you know, I've gotten good. I got good. But still, like, Act 3 is kind of a slog, and it's a recipe for burnout. If you're 80 hours deep into the game and then all of a sudden you hit these things that just, like, they really slow you down. And coming off of such a, like, a narrative high, right? Like, after the return from, like, you escape from the abyss and you're like, your blood is just pumping and you're ready to see what's next. And then it's like, here's this big old fetch quest, and everything about that fetch quest is slow. Getting to the places is slow because enemies are just randomly harder. Any sort of exploration you want to do is slow. They're very well hidden. What other, you know, just kind of like, you name it, it's there. Long gauntlets, blocky bosses, like extremely tanky bosses, that are quite challenging, and it's a recipe for burnout. And that, I think, is the great failing of Act 3, is that it's burnout town. So that brings us to exactly 11:59. So I need to go to the bookstore and a couple other places, because I got stuff I need to do to prep for Desert Bus, and I got a dentist appointment. Yay. What am I looking for? I'm looking on my tablet for a thing. Hazel streaming some WoW stuff. So let's go say hi to Hazel. And yeah, we'll see. I promise, actually stream something that isn't Silksong soon. So, but yeah, go wave and say hi to Hazel. She's running around doing some achievement stuff. So it'll be chill. She's real chill. Yeah.